r/AskReddit created by routinereddit. What's something that people think makes them look cool, but actually has the opposite effect? When people play their music loud at the gas pumps. I recently saw a woman leave her toddler in the car with a crappy music blasting to the point that it was uncomfortable and unpleasant for everyone else pumping gas while she went into the store. Felt bad for that child. My ex did this with our kids. I had to sit her down and explain what was inappropriate about it. She seems to honestly not know it looked more white trash than cool. She's white trash. I'm baffled as to how anyone would think they look cool doing that in the first place. Literally nobody would look over and be like, wow, that person is cool, unless they're being sarcastic. Okay, but this one time I was playing a Grateful Dead song at the pump and this dude who was outside working said nice. Nice. Was it Baby Shark? Nah, that's a banger. I swear my kid instinctively moshes to this song. I agree. How about those gas pumps that have a TV that will not stop? What advertising craphead came up with a TV at the freaking gas pump? This answer has nothing to do with your post, but it reminded me of it. Edit. Thanks for the help. I will try to disable these dang things next time. Try pressing the buttons on the side of it. One gas station I go to always replays the same phrase over and over, and I found out that hitting the top right button stops it, lol. I used to be able to mute these by pressing a button on the side, but recently a lot of the gas stations I go to have disabled the ability to mute the screen. It's so annoying. I just get back in my car while the tank is filling up. Having a phone conversation on a loudspeaker in public, or blasting crappy music from a cheap oversaturated Bluetooth speaker on public transport. We get it. Negative attention is also attention, but taking over a public space with your edginess is just being in butthole. My parents have recently discovered speakerphone and refuse to believe there is such a thing as speakerphone etiquette. I'll be talking to them and all of a sudden I'll hear, "So do we know what we want to order?" And I realize they've been holding this entire conversation on speakerphone in a restaurant, surrounded by people trying to enjoy their dinner. Oh, and I have thought that my parents are the only one. The absolutely worst case they had done it was when there were family's friends staying at their place. Parents called me and haven't mentioned anything about being on speaker. They told me about having a last night full of drinking and some stuff. So I asked whether it was okay, because one of their guests is quite aggressive and unpleasant when she drinks. And yeah, she was sitting next to them. They went like, "But hun, she is sitting next to us. You are being rude." Am I being rude? You are the ones that brings personal talks to the table. I still felt ashamed even though what I said was true. Don't. I have so much sympathy for you here. It's unreal how many people bring their phone conversations out in places that it's not appropriate, at the register, drive-through, dinner table, etc. The third party in your story probably needs to hear about her behavior. Mean drunks often don't realize how they appear. You are totally in the right. Back in my restaurant days I worked at a short order pizza joint. If you have a nice line of people, I find the most effective way to get through to most of these people is to look right at the person on the phone. Don't say a word. Then look right at the person behind them in line and ask what they'd like to order. If the phone person complains, you just say, "I'm sorry, I thought you were on the phone and I didn't want to interrupt you." It won't generally be taken as passive aggressive, even though it definitely is. Kids bragging about their parents' wealth and success. Man. People who say, "Well, my parent is blah blah blah," like they know or can do the same things their parents can, really gets under my skin. Edit. Hey, I finally noticed it was my cake day before 11 PM. Thanks everyone. Story. When I was in like 6th grade on the school bus, someone said something and brought attention to me. This girl exclaims, "Ooh, you have lice." To which I respond, "No, I don't. It's dandruff." And she comes back with, "No, it's lice. My mom's a hairstylist." And all I could say was, "So." Then went back to sleep as best I could. It's not that they're trying to tell you they can do the same stuff. It's that they want you to defer to them like royalty because their parents are important and powerful. I taught high school and middle school for 7 years. That stuff happened pretty routinely. The worst part of it was that it typically worked because of community politics. You don't want to upset the kid of rich parents or parents who are connected to the right people. I had a kid once who was the adopted son of 2 successful attorneys. He was always bragging about his family's wealth and their multiple vacation homes. One time during a parent-teacher conference, the kid all but admitted that the reason he always had several $1,000s in cash on him at any given time, despite his parents taking away his credit and debit cards and cutting off his $400/WK allowance, was because he was selling drugs at school. But we were told, in no uncertain terms by our principal, not to investigate that if we valued our jobs. Sure enough, he got busted off campus selling cocaine a couple of weeks later and went to juvie. Why sell drugs when your life is made already? Crazy. Because drugs were the only reason he had friends and girls. He was a douche and nobody liked him as a person, but hanging out with him and pretending he was cool would get you hooked up with drugs, as well as alcohol, rides in his new BMW, and raging parties at his parents' lake house on the weekends. Also, his parents had, supposedly, cut off all his other money for other stuff he was getting into. This was his way of being independent. That $400/WK allowance and credit card with a $10,000 limit that he ran up every month was gone. And, well, it's expensive being 16. Holy heck, I hate this. I have a friend whose father is a retired fire chief. Her favorite thing to say is my dad was a fireman, so I have a sixth sense for fire. It's really annoying. I guess your mom isn't a biologist then, because you've got screw-all sense about genetics. There was a guy my best friend dated in high school who had very wealthy lawyers as parents, and he scoffed at me and my friends for having part-time, minimum wage jobs. He said, verbatim, "Nothing is worth doing if it pays less than $50 an hour." That's what my parents make, and that was the moment I realized there really are people that are that out of touch from reality. Edit. Man, this was like 8 years ago, and many are debating about lawyers and how much they make an hour. All I know is this kid thought his time was worth $50/hours at the age of 16 with no experience, and said his parents made that much. IDK what they actually made, and $50 an hour is a lot for me and my friends, because we all come from low income, working class families. His parents were extremely wealthy and probably made way over $50 an hour. I just remember that's what the kid said to us. If his parents made $50 an hour as lawyers, they weren't very good at it. Crapping on things other people like. We all have stuff we don't like, but if you spend all your time putting down everything a person is interested in, you don't look cool or edgy. You look like a dick with no interests. And often it's preceded by the question, am I the only person? As though the dislike makes them special. Am I the only person with this common opinion? One-upping and putting other people down to make yourself look good. Rife in white-collar jobs. I despise people who do it. Yeah, hate it when people do it to look good. They should just act normal and put people down to feel good. Crying in corner. Oh you, dude, what's wrong? Me, sniff, my grandma died. Oh you, puts hand on shoulder, dude, both my grandmas are dead. Really nice parkas. People think they look cool, but they actually keep them warm. This made me actually chuckle. Haha. On a related note, I found it hilarious when I learned that Canada Goose jackets are some kind of fashion statement in England. First, it doesn't really get cold enough to warrant paying that much for a down-filled jacket. Maybe that's why it's a fashion statement, lol. Where I live in Canada, they are mostly worn by immigrants because the jackets are really warm, and although they are nice jackets, I've never seen them as a fashion statement. I always viewed them as more for people who spent a lot of time outdoors in the winter and needed a more intense jacket that would last a long time, like a camping, hiking, snowshoeing jacket. I've been doing fine with my cheap feather-filled Old Navy jacket, even when we were trapped in that polar vortex last winter. Parkas are fashion statements in the UK, cause they look good. Canada Goose because it's expensive AF. I'm not sure if this is just an Australian thing, but people who rev their cars/motorbikes really loud, and it's usually quite late at night, while most people are trying to sleep. Guess it's a thing worldwide. Yeah, but holism isn't country specific. Good old Craig in his souped up Honda Civic racing down the road at 3 AM. Here I thought it was Yoda going for his ketamine fix. Definitely not just an Australian thing. Being into zodiac signs and using them as an excuse for any of their unlikable behavior. Did you see how I snapped on that waiter? I'm sorry, but Mercury is in retrograde and this cancer doesn't have time for his crap. Oh, that's cancerous, alright. My old grandpa was a cancer through and through, so ironic how he died. He was eaten by a crab.